Good morning, everybody. Polynikes here, and today I'm talking about list building. I've been having a lot of trouble list building in N4 just because I'm not getting things to feel quite right. I'm not really excited about any of the lists I've been coming up with, at least initially. And I've been getting a good number of questions and seeing a lot of questions on the various Facebook posts about list building. So I thought I would throw in my opinion, and you guys can tell me what you think of it. Yeah, as a side note, I'd love to see some of your lists as well. Feel free to post them down below. Lists, list ideas, and yeah, love to see them because I like to be inspired. I might even just try some of them as they are. But first couple comments on list building. The lists that I'm going to go over are not tournament lists, so they're not designed for 5 different missions over the course of 2 days, or even 3 missions over the course of 1 day. Each one will be, well, I guess a couple of them will be designed specifically for a mission and an opponent, which is how you're supposed to design lists in Infinity, right? You're supposed to know, by supposed to I mean in the rule book, as if you were just going through straight one game with somebody. You're supposed to know what army they're playing and the mission that you're playing, and even technically you're supposed to know your classifieds before you make your army list. But we never do the classified part. We always draw them right before the game. But you can see how that would make a difference, right? Because then you could, if you drew the forward observer one, you would make sure to have a forward observer in your list, right? I do like that, but like I said, we never do that part. So keep that in mind with these lists. They're designed very specifically. At least I think the first 2 I'm going to show you, and then the second 2 are more general and they're not quite finished, which is a lot of the time I do that when I have an idea for a list, but then I need to leave a little cushion room in it for tailoring it then for the mission, or for the missions if it's for a tournament, or for the opponent. And the last thing I'm going to say before I move on is I am a real believer that pretty much every unit is playable. In Combined Army anyway, that's mainly what I'm knowledgeable about. And in Vanilla Combined Army, I have used pretty much every profile in the Combined Army and continue to sprinkle them around. Some I favor. You'll see things that are in all my lists. Yeah, okay, so I'll start. The first list I'm going to show you here. This list here was designed to play against Morats in Rescue. Now, the new Rescue does not have a terrain zone, so you don't need multi-terrain anywhere. It'd be weird if it did have the terrain zone and all your multi-terrain got all that bonus movement, so they'd just be zipping across the board. My opponent pointed that out to me. That's probably why they took it out. So I know I'm playing against Morats. I know we're playing Rescue. And I wanted to play the Charonted profile with the +1 Lieutenant order. That's why it's in here, right? Normally, I would be playing, well, not normally, but more often, I should say, I play the HMG Charonted because of the heavy weapon platforms available to you in the Combined Army, it's a very good one. One of the best. Sepsitor is also very good. You lose your MSV3, but a lot of what your MSV3 would do, your Sepsitor does at close range, right? You get up to a camo token, and if they don't reveal, you can intuitive attack them on a 16 with your Sepsitor. It's real good, of course, assuming they have a cube. So, yeah, I took that. Greif Operator, remember we're doing Rescue, so I want to have someone who starts with no roll necessary in their zone. If they've left one of their hostages, civilians, not very well protected, possibly the Greif Operator can just grab one and run back. And that's really important in Rescue because it's not a high-scoring mission. When I'm done going over the list, I'll give you a brief synopsis of that game too. Seed Soldier starts forward deployed and allows me to protect my civilians a little bit with his chest mines. Originally, I would hope to make it a paramedic for this mission, but I didn't have the extra point, so he ended up just being a forward observer. Hajduk, big fan of the Hajduk, very cheap MSV, he's a good gunfighter. Dadarazai pairs with the Hajduk. Often I run 2 Dadarazai, but I wanted to fit something else in this list and I ended up taking one out. The Dadarazai, as I said, one of the best units in the Combined Army. Yeah. Imatrons. So these are almost must-takes now. Before they were not as much in N3, but they've gotten so much better in N4, they could have even gone up a point, and I would not have complained at all. You effectively cannot miss with them when you're airborne jumping them, because you always aim for a spot in your deployment zone, preferably touching a board edge, and if you fail the roll, you just go there. In fact, if you fail the roll, then you can go there prone, which is even better. And let's not forget that Imatrons don't really have any special rules to limit what they can do. So they can issue a lookout, they can fail guts and go prone if they get shot. It's just, you can, is it doctor them up? They have structure, right? Yeah, they have structure them so you can engineer them back up. I don't know how much that actually comes up, but it's there. And I think that it's a good design choice because it's not worth extra rules in the game to prevent those things from happening. Yes, if you would like to use Dockworm to fix your Imatron, because it only took one wound, fine. You can spend an order doing that, right? That's just not worth a rule to prevent in the game. At least that's the design choice I think they made, and I think is fine. Our drones, they're almost as good as they used to be, maybe better because the flash pulse is better. In this mission, I did not use this one for AROs. I just used it to extend my repeater range. Liberto, again, he's forward deploying, so he can somewhat defend the HVTs from an initial run, the hostages, civilians, whatever. And a Cadmus with a boarding shotgun. Again, knowing I'm against Morats, I thought this would be a neat way to disrupt a link. Right? They've got a link either showing one guy for ARO duty, you can drop in on it, you get a decoy to maybe trigger any mines they've laid out, and then you can double tap those chest mines with surprise off of your decoy, so you might actually kill one or two guys in the link. Assuming, of course, you have to be able to drop out of their line of fire, but within yours, like behind someone in the link, right? And if they turn around to face you, you don't really care on the jump because you're just going to drop chest mines on them. And if they just want to suck up that chest mine to shoot the guy as he's throwing his chest mines at them, that's fine. You've expended your guy to do that, to kill a couple guys and maybe break the link or whittle down the link. I think it's totally fine use for 21 points. The order, questionable, but I got my +1 lieutenant order, I'm fine. All right, group 2. T-drone, we're packing the missile launcher for the guided missiles because we do have a mentor hacker here. And the idea is to get as many of the HVTs under my repeater net as I can. That way when they sink them, I can spotlight them, and then I can guided missile on them later on. Because you have to have the civilians in civvac state in order to score with them in this game. Right? You can't just get them somewhere. So either they have to reset out of it or pass the civilian to somebody else. It's just going to make them do more things to effectively score. I almost took 2 hackers just for that reason in this list, 2 regular hackers. Because you can see I do have actually 3 hackers all in the same group here. My Zuriat, my Q-drone, E-drone, and T-drone. Again, the Zuriat, I'm a real fan of pushing the infiltrate on because she doesn't lose that much if you fail. No camo state, she just goes back to her deployment zone. And again, for rescue, I'm going to push the initiative, or push her infiltrate. That was my intent, to go over there and try to grab a civilian and rig it back with it. So if even one of my 2 initial grabs works, that's really good because again, rescue is not a high-scoring mission, and getting 1 back to my zone and, on the first turn is very, I don't want to say powerful, but it's very good for scoring in the mission. I debated a long time between the killer hacker and the mine layer profile, because if I could push the initiative, start next to one of his civilians with a mine over there, that would be awesome, because then it will interfere with him moving out in his first turn. I ended up going with the killer hacker, mainly because I figured he would have a hacker somewhere, and if I get, I don't have to really be lucky, I just have to be able to stick that infiltrate roll, and I can probably just move up, killer hack, kill his hacker, then grab a civilian and run away. That was what I was thinking. So E-drone for supporting the Q-drone and the drop troop, and also, well, that's all in this mission. I guess some drop zone protection because it has a combi rifle, but what I usually do not do is have my E-drone in the same group as my Q-drone, right? Because I want to use that order not on the Q-drone to upgrade the Q-drone. Does that make sense? And then run around. But you'll notice that this list doesn't have an engineer anywhere or a doctor, so I'm not planning on being aggressive with the Q-drone because I'll probably get it killed. So that's why it's in group 2, and you can just kind of guard some place and be fine. Maybe I'll upgrade it, maybe I won't, depending on what I have to do with these other orders. So that was all my thought process in making this list. Again, specifically against Morats and against and in rescue. Another point on the Charantid up here. It's really good against Zerats. because you can move up to them and they can either flame you or combi rifle you, right? And then you can scepter them. And you don't have to worry about that ODD. So I figured that would be good. In the game, as it turned out, my opponent didn't have any Zuriats, so he didn't get to do that. Pretty much none of the little trick things I talked about worked. Like the Zuriat failed her infiltration roll. The Cadmus, when he came in to disrupt the link, failed his roll also and went back to my zone. The Shrontid ran up, got in some long-range plasma fights that did okay, but then took 2 wounds from a berserking Gaki. Yeah, that was pretty terrifying. The Zuriat ended up spending most of the orders group 2 up until she died, just moving up and kind of gunfighting and eventually getting killed by Kornak. The most interesting part of the game was probably the Greif operator. I completely abandoned my plan to go try to get a civilian because he had a Yaugat and a Harris that I could surprise shot from inside 8 inches. Now, he can't use a sniper rifle, but he still uses his heavy pistol, so this really wasn't as good as I was hoping it would be. And while I beat him in the face-to-face like at least twice, I think I rolled 3 hits off his armor 6 total, 3 and 3 for cover, until I decided that wasn't a great use of orders anymore. And really, as I know with Greif operators, you need to be attacking softer targets, like R drones, Gakis, things like that, or you need to be doing objectives when they can, which in this case they can, right? He doesn't have to roll to deploy over there. He just be able to grab a civilian and run. So that was poor use of mine on his part because I got really excited about trying to kill that sniper because that would have opened up a big avenue of approach for me. That's pretty much all I have to say about this list. I enjoyed playing it. All the tools were fun to use. I think the only change I would make in hindsight in this list is either the Zuriat or the Q drone would be in group 1 because they ended up competing for orders a lot. Yeah, Rescue, it's back. I think it's a great mission. You definitely have to plan around it, though not quite as much as before because there's no saturation zone and no terrain zone like there used to be. But yeah, I like this list. I thought it was great. All right. So this is a list that I made for Unmasking. As you can see, it's cunningly titled Unmasking. I was playing against Corregidor, if I remember correctly, and in making the list, I had to, or I did, take into account that he might bring tags. He might bring 2 geckos. He might bring heavy links with the mobile brigadas that are now armor 5, which is outstanding for them. So I worked in a fair amount of anti-armor stuff, though it's not really overt anti-armor stuff. Like Norkius. Norkius is a monster, as I think we all know by now. Right? He's got total control as well as a Vorpal close combat weapon, so both are good against tags. Got a Hacker, which of course is good against tags. Got a Malingos with monofilament mines. And I guess the Yaugat multi-sniper. Multi-sniping tags in cover isn't really going to be that effective, even at burst 3. You're just putting damage 15 hits on them. If you're shooting through smoke, right, which you are because you got Dadarazai here, that's pretty good, right? So again, this was made for Unmasking. So we've got a Zuriat killer Hacker. I've been having a lot of success with Zuriats and a lot of pain fighting them recently, so I think they're very good. And what was the other cut? Zuriat Hacker and Shrouded Hacker, both allowing me to go hit buttons in the middle of the field early on with the Hacker bonus. I think that Hacker bonus is really important in Unmasking because, again, it's not a terribly high scoring mission and you want to get it done as efficiently as possible. Additionally, Norkius can do it, and Norkius is the data tracker generally because he can hop around to get places to kill the designated targets, possibly eat them, get better. And the Malingos with monomines. Monomines are terrifying more than they are effective. In the game that I played, I think he ended up monomining like 1 Aguasil or something like that. And the rest of the time he was just shooting with his combi rifle from at soft targets from either suppression fire or just in cover. He did really well. The Yaugat multi-sniper combined with the Dadarazai are one of the more efficient tools in vanilla for removing enemy ARO pieces. Not great against a linked sniper or something like that, but pretty much anything else. In this list, he was my reserve, and so I was able to line up shots on, I think I took out an enemy TR bot and something else. And that really opens up the field for everyone else to be moving around. I thought this list was very good. It did exactly what it wanted to do. The only issue I had in the game was Norkius got crit by an Oblivion and got isolated. Even though I was going through my repeater, right, I stacked it pretty well in my favor, but I got crit. What are you going to do? So if you're going to be doing that, like having the chain of command in there is probably a good idea. It was rough. But I like the list. I like the idea. You could definitely swap the Malingos for the chain of command Caliban and get a couple other points to do something else. Quick note on the Liberto. I have been including him. He was in both the lists I just went over. I'm not always including him, though. I find that even when I include him, I often don't activate him. Right? I just end up spending his order with command tokens as regular. So he's not in all my lists these days. All right, moving on to the next list. So this is just a general purpose list that I've designed that I can tweak to go into any mission. You can see it's not quite full points yet, and it's got a Noctifer in there, things that I don't usually do. But this does have a lot of tools that I like in there. Got my pair of Dotaratsai, got my pair of Shrouded Hackers, got my Caliban MSV1. All those are powerful pieces. The Noctifer, like I don't use a Noctifer that much, so this would probably end up being something else. Like depends on the mission, depends on what I need for the mission. Like all those points can be used to move for the mission. But I really like having two Shroudeds backed up by the T-drone, especially in missions where the opponent is forced to come to the center of the board to do something, like supplies or something where I can infiltrate up. So not really unmasking. But I have done that before, and where the enemy moves up to do the objective, then I spotlight them. And then if they allow the turn to flip, still spotlight, you immediately just guide missiles into them. And yeah, I've had some good success with that. Because again, either they let that happen or they spend orders resetting. Maybe they fail, so they spend a couple orders resetting to get out of that. So you're draining their resources in a way that is not really dangerous to you. Yeah, so again, we got the plasma rifle Charonted here. It's because I'm using all the SWC elsewhere. If I were to change the Noctifer into something else, which I probably would when I go to a game, it's only one normal point more to make the Charonted a HMG. And then he's a real good remover of obstacles for everybody else to do things. All right, last list I'm going to go over here. It's a Skiovoros list. Again, it's not tuned for a mission. This is just kind of general purpose. Like I can have all these tools and then I can move things around. It's not a lot different than the list we just looked at, except that we have a Skiovoros who's inexplicably like as expensive as a Charonted. We still got Bit and Kiss, our Dotaratsai. The Yogat I have in here is the Panzerfaust. It didn't have the SWC, I think it was, to go for the sniper. And, well, it's obviously not as good. It's cheaper. But you can still do the same kind of thing, right? You can throw the smoke down. You can Panzerfaust something. It's obviously not as reliable as its burst 1, not 3. But it's in there as a tool, and it's fine. And it's also points, again, that I could move things around with for mission specific. Noctifer Spitfire, I really like that as an attack piece. And if you've never used the Noctifer Spitfire, you should give it a try. It's much more fun to use than a Noctifer missile launcher, and for me, it's been more effective. Otherwise, you got kind of the same stuff here. E-drone, R-drone, you got your medtech and your T-drone. I'm not terribly happy with this group 2, because there isn't necessarily something to do with group 2 here. Like if I go first with my group 2, what am I going to do? Move up my medtech? No, he doesn't want to go anywhere up there and get killed. I'm not going to engage anything with my T-drone. Right? I'm going to use my E-drone to engage the or to upgrade the Q-drone probably. Right? But that's not really good use. So probably what should be done in this list is one of these pieces should go over here. Like the Yaugat can definitely go over there. And which one comes over? I don't know. That's actually a really hard decision. I don't like putting the R-drones in group 1 because in this list I'm planning on using them as ARO pieces, so they're probably going to die. So I don't really want those orders to die in group 1. And I don't want the medtech over there because I want him to be in group 2 using those to fix things, right? Not taking orders out of group 1. Same with the T-drone. I don't want him in group 1 because I want to use group 2's missiles, right? Or 4 missiles. So I don't know which one I would put over. I might just throw an R-drone over, even though I don't terribly like it. Or I might not, and I might just stick it at 9 and 6, right? You got your extra order from Skivoros there, so you're still going to be 10 and 6, really. Yeah, I think that would be fine, depending on the mission you're playing. You'd tweak some of this around. Yeah, so those are some list ideas there. And the last thing I want to say about lists is, I guess two things. One, playing a split like this, 9 and 6, or even 8 and 7, is fully viable. I've seen people doing it. I've done it a couple times myself, especially when you take into account that lists are not actually 15 orders. Like if you look at any of these lists that I've played, they're not really 15 orders. This one, right, we've got 15 plus our lieutenant order, so we got 16, plus 2 impetuous orders, right, that's 18. So you're really running 18 orders. I think that all the lists are like that. Yeah, this one's the same, all right, because you're going to use that lieutenant order every turn on your Charantid. Norkius will use his lieutenant order everywhere to do something, even if it's just go into Cybermask, right? And if you take a alternate lieutenant somewhere in the list, then your opponent won't know, because you can use your lieutenant order via NCO on Norkius, because he has both. And of course, in this one, you have 2 lieutenant orders, right? So it's sort of inaccurate to think of these orders as 15 order lists. They're not. They're more like 18, something like that. So those are some lists I've been playing around with and using. Hope you enjoyed the discussion, enjoyed the lists. Feel free to comment below. Tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. Skivoros is garbage and I would never actually play this. Or give it a try, see what you think about it, and post one of your lists below. I'd love to see what you are doing as well. And I'll talk to you next time.